Today is all about the trade stories we're going to be watching over the next week and a half. Of course, the trade period starts today. Free agency opened on Friday. And the big news across the weekend, Derm, was that Taylor Adams, with 1 year remaining on a contract at Collingwood, requested a trade to the Sydney Swans, who've
So he's made that request.
made that request, and the Pies have confirmed that. The Swans have offered him 3 years, and the Pies, they just had 1 year left on his deal. What do you make of it?
What I make of it is Taylor was pushed onto the half-forward line this year predominantly with fleeting appearances in the midfield. Taylor, by virtue of his DNA, is an inside midfielder. He's like a little anvil. You just keep belting away at him and he just keeps bouncing back. But once the ball gets to the outside and it turns into a leg race, a foot speed, that's not his long suit. So playing on the half-forward flank has limitations for him, given how much Collingwood would love to play all their small, nippy and agile forwards and their key forwards, and not much in between, and Taylor's one of those in-between guys. So Tom Mitchell coming into the team, doing well, holding down his spot and doing exceedingly well, has probably slipped ahead of Taylor, as good as Taylor is as a beast inside the midfield. So I think it's longer-term, medium-term opportunity for Taylor, and the security then on top of that. So there's a few factors at play here would have altered his decision.
And I wonder what the Magpies will ask for Taylor Adams for a trade with the Sydney Swans. They've got pick 23. They've got another one in the second round, pick 31. I can't imagine the 30-year-old is garnering any more than that, but who knows? The Pies might ask for a late first-rounder as well.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah. I think he's a tremendous player. What do you think?
I think pick 23, which will end up being about 27 or 28 is about right.
I think that's overs.
Oh, really?
Given his age.
But he's contracted.
Yeah, I know. But he's contracted, but given their druthers, will they play him? If they have everyone fit, will he get a game ahead of who they want in the midfield?
So you think pick 31, which ends up being about pick 36 or 37 after academy prospects?
Yeah. Yeah, probably about that.
It's not a deep draft term. A lot of list managers are saying that there might only be 40 or 45 players taken. Different
conversation. So that's So that's what we expect it to be, and that's how they flesh it out when they do the negotiations. But I think something in the low 20s is overs for Taylor at this point in his career.
We've got Graham Wright on with Sam Edmund and myself on Trade Feed at 1 p.m. today. So have a listen to that.
Fantastic Wright, isn't he?
He's great. He was great in the rooms after the grand final as well. Happy to have a chat. Just on the Swans. So they've got James Jordan already as a free agent. They've got Joel Hamling already as a free agent from the Dockers. They're going to get Brodie Grundy via trade, and it looks like they're going to get Taylor Adams. That's a pretty good haul, isn't it? Those four players in, given that they were pretty inactive last off-season.
So Grundy is the superstar, the capable superstar. We sort of mentally, we've written down Brodie Grundy because of the season. But let's take him back just 13 months ago, the form he didn't finish off that well at Collingwood. 18 months ago. He's a star player. So he's their number one. The rest are role bit players who will service Sydney very, very well, and that's a needs basis for them. So Hamling will give them backup, and you know that when you bring him in, he knows the role, he knows the caper very, very well, good quality person and the like. So, they're going for the needs basis right now.
Lots of texts coming through. Adams and 36 to Sydney, 23 back to Collingwood. That's from Sam in Hobart.
That could work.
Sydney have offered him 3 years. They rate him 23 as a pick from a number that has no name attached to it. And Tom, what do you think of this? Melbourne gets Sydney's pick 11 and 23. Sydney get Grundy, Adams, and Collingwood's pick 36. I don't mind the pick slide. It's the sort of thing. I don't think the Swans and the Pies will find it too hard to come to an arrangement here. What is clear is that Collingwood will have to continue to pay a portion of Brodie Grundy's contract at the Swans. They've got to deal with Brodie Grundy, and theoretically, wherever Grundy plays, the Pies will have to continue to pay a portion of that contract.
Yeah. That will stay in existence.
That will stay in existence for the next 4 years. Paddy Dow, the other news on the weekend was that he has requested a trade to St Kilda. This is not a huge surprise. And the word yesterday was it would cost the Saints maybe a future fourth-round draft pick. Not much. They'll get it done pretty easily. Stephen Silvagni and Nick Austin, the two list managers, have already had preliminary discussions. Good pick up for the Saints, Derm.
I think we saw his best football in the back half of the year and lost his position in the team just because good players were coming back. But I almost thought he was a chance to hang on. Yeah, I thought he almost was a chance to hang on. His pace through the middle was the most important thing that he added to that Carlton team. Yeah, fair enough, he can chop it up a little bit by foot, but if somebody can win the ball, if somebody can run the ball and you actually work out a way to weave him into traffic, weave him into play and not have him kick the ball all that much, it sounds weird for a midfielder not kicking it. Normally the blokes you don't want kicking are the ones who get to the inside and can't use leg speed to get to the outside. They tend to handball it to the outside, and they're probably 60% handballs, 40% kickers.
Yep.
You almost want the same ratio from Paddy Dow, even though he can get to the outside and can use his pace and can run through the lines.
So just while we're on the Saints as well, they were looking for another ruck, and they still might be as well. They asked the question about Todd Goldstein. Goldstein wasn't interested. He was weighing up Essendon and Collingwood, and he's chosen Essendon. So it looks as if...
That's understandable too, Essendon, him going there.
Yeah. And we'll get to them in a moment, but they're going to have a pretty busy week and a half. But it looks as if Tom Campbell will get a one-year deal at the Saints because he didn't play a game this year, but he was given an award, the best clubman at St Kilda's Best and Fairest last week, and Ross Lyon loves him. So it looks as if he's going to stay as backup to Rowan Marshall. The Saints also asked the question, Derm, about Caleb Marchbank, another one of Stephen Silvagni's disciples from Carlton, but he re-signed last week.
Well, he's a Giants boy.
Yeah, that's right.
He was at the Giants.
Off of both, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was that underground railway from the Giants back to Carlton.
Portugal have scored. They lead 10-3. This is massive. So, wow, early in the second half, we are going for the Portuguese here, and if the Portuguese continue to play like this, then we will progress and Fiji will be knocked out.
Have you ever been so happy about a rugby score?
I couldn't name one Portuguese rugby player ever.
No, just pull out Rodriguez. There you go. Somebody's got to have a name Rodriguez in their team, don't
We
they?
are supporting Portugal hard. Portugal score one more point and
We
keep
don't know
Fiji.
who you are, but we love you.
We love you. Portugal score one more point and keep Fiji to their current score, and the Wallabies will progress. Where do you want to go next with the trade stories, Derm? What are you thinking? Xavier Dersma, you interested in him?
Well, Dersma's one of those players who can give you leg speed and give you good coverage on the ground, but this year more so than any other, and I wonder whether it was he's played a little bit sore this year because his kicking was really poor, and yet I thought his kicking was fairly good in his first couple of seasons. So, yeah, he got banged up a bit early in his career, shoulders and the likes, and what happens is that doesn't affect your kicking, but what it does is affects your confidence to actually take and sustain a hit to your body from the opposition. So I wonder whether he lost confidence in that and whether he, as he matures and physically gets stronger, whether he's just able to ride through that. I mean, that's just from an outside view.
Yep.
I don't know whether it's, the actual truth or not, but he definitely kicked the ball much, much poorly than he did in his first couple of years.
Yeah, he certainly had a rollicking start to his career. Bad news now. Fiji has scored. So it's 10-all in the rugby. We need the Portuguese to lift because if the scores remain the same, then Fiji will progress. Just on Dersma, non-Victorian clubs have been essentially told not to bother. He wants to come to Victoria if he does leave in an ideal world. And Port's view is while they aren't pushing him out, they will facilitate a trade. He's got a year left on a deal.
When I was on the board and I used to attend and sit in on all the trade talks and meetings and the opposition to it, we used to say, like, it'd be Monday. There'd be people there at their clubs now and they'd meet at their club, whether it's at Essendon, whether it's at Hawthorn, whether it's at Melbourne in there. And they say, right, we're heading out to go and go to the trade day, and yeah, we'd call it, we're going to the Liars Convention. So you see how the vernacular changes over day to day. So first up, no, Xavier Dersma, no, he's not on the board. No interest. And then it has morphed into...
It evolves.
Yes. Well, we're not keen on moving him on. We want to keep him, but yeah, you can apply if you want. And now it's morphed into... No, only Victorian clubs need apply, which suggests that Xavier wants to go home. So, yeah, it's funny how the vernacular around it changes each day as we go deeper into the trade period.
Well, last year, Fremantle just blatantly said Rory Lobb's not going anywhere. And then he ended up at the Western Bulldogs. Once they got Luke Jackson in the door, of course. There are plenty of suitors for Xavier Dersma. Essendon we know about. Collingwood and the Dogs, they're weighing up a play too. I'm sure there's others that are keen on him. I think the Saints would make it be a perfect fit, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen.
Well, he's a good player. He covers the ground really well, and a bloke who can do that at that level, and clearly he can play, yeah, they're quite valuable.
The Portuguese have scored 15-10. It is a rollicking game over there in Europe, in France.
This is like table tennis. There's a point every couple of seconds.
It's fantastic.
Another one.
I can't actually watch it. I'm just looking at the score, and they've converted now, so it's 17-10. One more point, and the Portuguese will be doing the job for the Wallabies. James Harms, I can confirm to Cal Toomey's report that the Dogs are keen on him. He's owed more than $500,000 next year.
That has to be, Tommy, purely a monetary decision.
From Melbourne.
Because if I'm Melbourne, I would be looking... what do we need? And I'd say we need somebody with grunt and fury, the way they play, to stand next to Viney so he doesn't have to shoulder all that load of physical angst that you've got to take to the opposition. And James Harmes is the kind of player I'd be looking at. Yep. And he's already at your club and you don't want to play him, and clearly you don't want to pay him.
And he would probably like a 2 or even 3 year deal elsewhere to extend his career. I agree with you. They've also losing James Jordan as well, who's not the inside mid-bull, but still a ball winner and a premiership player. So will be interesting to see what happens with James Harmes, but he clearly looks as if he's on the way out. Ivan Soldo at Richmond, the big man, the ruckman, he almost got to the Giants last year, and although he's contracted for 2024 at Richmond, Port Adelaide are still keen. Now, the only way this even gets close to getting done is if Soldo marches into Adam Uze's office with Blair Hartley and Tim Livingston and Brendan Gale and whoever else they speak to at Punt Road and says, I want to go. So Soldo has to do the heavy lifting here. And that's the only way it happens. But Port are keen to add him to the ruck stocks alongside Jordan Sweet.
Well, Richmond have shown a hand in the past that they are very happy to play 2 centre square ruckmen in their 22. So you'd think that if he does do that and they decide, they'll be pushed back to say, no, we want to keep you, unless they believe that they can land somebody else fairly quickly who might be in their mind a slight-ish upgrade or somebody of similar quality.
Fiji are a man down for the next six minutes turn.
1 cent off.
Yeah, it's very good to follow this online.
Well, they're very aggressive, aren't they?
Come on, the Portuguese. Let's go to Freo, because they've hardly been mentioned at all so far.
Well, they did a bit last year.
They did a fair bit last year. Lots of questions about what the Dockers are up to. The short answer is, Derm, not much. They don't have a first-round pick at the moment because they sold it to Melbourne last year in the Luke Jackson trade. They are riding shotgun for Tyler Brockman in case he can't get to West Coast. And it was the Dockers' view that they would have preferred Liam Henry to request Hawthorn and not St Kilda because then that would have made a Brockman deal potentially easier. But given that Brockman has requested West Coast and Henry's requested St Kilda, it hasn't quite worked out for them.
Yeah, it actually would be nice to go the other way, wouldn't it? So, yeah, Brockman's a talent. He's a real talent. We see some stuff from him. He's just, unfortunately, at the moment, he's just a 10 to 12 possession player who averages a goal. I have no doubt as he gets older that will escalate, but there's a little bit you can take into account of when you trade a player saying their upside is, but unless you actually get a surety that you believe that upside is going to come to be, you're trading them on their current worth.
And just to finish it off on the Dockers here, so regarding Henry, the comparison Sam Edmund made last week is bang on with Nick Caulfield, that's the Saints' view that Nick Caulfield is sort of comparable with Liam Henry. But pick 32 which will become pick 38 or pick 39 or 40, won't do it. St Kilda's aware of this. So we've already had chats between Stephen Silvagni and David Walls. So far, they haven't been able to come to a solution.
So the way this game at the moment, we tend to play follow the leader in AFL. So Collingwood have won the premiership, and there'll be a little bit of follow the leader the way they play. There'll be teams viewing Liam Henry as their Bobby Hill saviour to come into their team and just give them raw pace that blows teams away and they can't deal with it. Even though he's less of a forward than Bobby Hill, probably plays on the wing a bit more, they'll view that as more valuable than a Nick Cofield, who's not an exceptionally big intercept defender. And so if you're an intercept defender and somebody decides, well, let's force him to defend, you've got to be able to defend as well.
So once they upgrade Tracy and Banfield and Henry goes, Hamling's gone with the Swans, no compensation pick for